Hello everyone, I'm Colleen. Welcome to my first weekly retro horoscope. I am a traditional astrology student. I am an oracle and tarot card reader. I like witchy things. I'm a barista and many other things. I'm a writer too. So today, we're going to jump in and basically look at the transits that happened last week and talk about the energies that I experienced personally, saw in the news, pulled for oracle cards, and just kind of reflect on what maybe the lesson or message was from the universe last week. So let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to start on Sunday and go through Saturday. So to start, I have this little list over here on the side to explain these aspected lines in the middle, and then the glyphs and words. So we have Moon trine Mars, which right here we have the Moon, and then this little guy up here is the Mars. And then we also have Moon square Venus retrograde. So Moon and then Venus is right here at 18 degrees. So if we go forward a few hours, yeah, there we go. Now the Moon is exactly squaring, and then if we go a little bit later, there we go, 19 degrees, boom, boom. Boom, boom, that's what I meant. So, I actually didn't journal on Monday, or on Sunday. I had the idea to do this on Sunday, or okay, yeah, I'm actually gonna do it. I was messaging with one of my astrology friends who basically does this, but predicts it. And I told him, I was like, yeah, I think I'm really gonna do it. He's like, just do it. And I'm like, yeah, like, I do need to just do it. And it's interesting because Mars is on top of my Mercury this day. So it really was like the mental, like, okay, like, let's go. Mars initiate things. Mars is like the planet of action and aggression. So I really felt that, okay, let's go energy on Sunday. On Sunday, I also got my oracle cards and this journal that I've been keeping track of my transits and just energetic experiences in. So my Sunday was, for the most part, pretty low-key. As far as the Moon squaring Venus, I don't know. Aries is my fourth house, and then Capricorn is my first house. I feel like I did actually redecorate something in my house that day, or like reorganized a few things. So something that I'm going to do at the end of the video is show you how to track your own transits. There's this amazing app called Time Nomad, and I'm going to show you how absolutely nerdy I am, and literally it's like one of my most used apps. Every single day I look at the transits and think about different dates in the future and check what they are. But anyway, I digress. Sunday was pretty low-key. Honestly, I don't have much to say about it. I also didn't pull an oracle card for that day, but I have them for every other day. Yeah, the vibes were good. Sunday, the vibes were good. They were, for the most part, pretty low-key. So the same cannot be said for most of the other days. So let's move forward and talk about Monday. So Monday, fun fact, is ruled by the Moon. That's where MON comes from. Also where the word month comes from, because 28 days is the cycle of the Moon. But anyway, on Monday, we had the Moon ingress into Taurus, and also Mars squaring Neptune. Which, if you look at the transit guide, that like keeps happening. I only wrote it on Monday and Tuesday, but it was still pretty close to a degree Wednesday and Thursday too. Anyway, Monday, the Moon in Taurus, so that's right here. And then we have the Mars squaring Neptune. This transit for me was very tough. So to really understand where it's playing into your life, you want to look where Mars is in your chart, because Mars is the superior position to Neptune, only because it comes first in zodiacal order. So Mars is kind of bossing around Neptune. And I mentioned earlier, Mars represents your action, your aggression, vitality. I guess maybe that might be more the sun, but just sort of like your go-getter, like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway energy, you know? And then Neptune is the planet of blurred images, fantasy, reality, deception, anything that's sort of like mystical and a little unclear, basically. So when Mars is squaring Neptune, squares are sparky energy. They're sort of like they're shared between signs of the same modality. So both Sagittarius and Pisces are mutable. So they both have that changeable energy to them. They're both at the ends of their seasons, this being the end of fall and this being the end of winter, going into spring. So when those two planets are making a square, it's like they both sort of want to make a change, but the way Mars wants to change and the way Neptune wants to change are not the same. And with Mars being at the advantage, it can sort of feel like your fantasy is being stripped away. Your delusion is gone now. And for me, Mars is in my 12th house of anything hidden. So we have like mental health, hidden enemies, also seclusion and isolation. I like intuition. I think that's a good word to put in the 12th house. And Neptune is my 3rd house of communication. And I was having a really hard time communicating with my intuition. I was not able to really understand some of the instincts I was having, and I was feeling really disconnected from like my inner self, so to say, which is like a 12th house like keyword. So Mars square Neptune, I wrote in my journal that on a collective level, I think we were being asked to make sure that our action is connected to our intuition. And if a square represents conflicting energy between two signs of the same modality, perhaps between a water and a fire sign, more specifically, we are being called to go within and ask ourselves some pretty big questions. And Cam White, who is the friend that I mentioned earlier, in his video where he talked about what was coming ahead for this week before it happened, he said, like, the big question is, where are you going? Because Mars and Sagittarius wants to just go. And Pisces and Neptune is sort of like going with like beer goggles on stilts, like walking a dog. Like it's just not optimal going energy, you know? And I would add to the where are you going sort of like, are you choosing a path out of fear? Or are you choosing that path because it's like what fills you up? Are you allowing yourself to dream big? Or are you just letting yourself dream small because you know you'll be able to accomplish that? I think that was really the question that I felt a lot, both Monday and Tuesday, but very much so on Monday. You can't limit yourself, you know? And this felt like a very rude awakening where we're limiting ourselves, both on a personal and collective level, by just acting out of fear, you know? And not really thinking about there's other things that have to happen for you to be whatever your like dream fantasy is, right, Neptune? You have to take action to like get those dreams. And to take action is to dream in some ways, you know? I don't know. So it went exact though on Tuesday. And as far as the moon in Taurus, I don't know, I don't really have much to say about that. Moon in Taurus is my 5th house, so I usually try to be creative around that time. I would recommend looking where Taurus falls in your chart. If it's an angular house, you'll probably feel more energetic, is something I've learned recently. An angular, I mean just the 1st, 7th, 10th, and 4th houses. Versus if it's a succedent or cadent houses, meaning like the ones that come after an angular house are succedent, and then the ones that lead up to an angular house are cadent. You might be a little bit lower energy. So anyway, as far as news on Monday, there was tons of news in Minnesota, at least, about how freaking cold it was. It was like literally the like 4 degrees, and it was just not cool. And then, of course, very high numbers for the global panini that's been happening. And I also saw an interesting article about the IRS like having challenges with tax season, which I thought was interesting. Because Mercury is like in the shadow period at this point, and I feel like that might come back up when Mercury retrogrades back to the same degree, which actually might be like around this time right now as I'm recording this. But the oracle card that I pulled for Monday was this one, North Node. It is opal for the crystal, and the keyword is expansion. And I thought that was pretty interesting because it was all about evolving and letting go and following your soul's mission. That's like the North Node's like keywords. So as far as the Mars and Neptune conjunction, and also the nodes about to transition into new signs next Tuesday, I think a lot of the story of wherever Sagittarius and Gemini are in your chart is really wrapping up. And funny, Sagittarius, that's where Mars is right now. So whatever you drained out, whatever your South Node experience was with Sagittarius, perhaps you're being acted to actually like move forward with that. So okay, now you got rid of all this stuff, now you've moved on, now you've learned, now you've like taken out the garbage metaphorically in whatever house that is. Okay, now how do you move forward and take action and rebuild that area, you know, and not just rely on fear and fantasy and delusion and all of that, but really move forward from it. So yeah, that was Monday. Let's talk about Tuesday. Woohoo! I'm like flying through this. Let's go. Okay. Tuesday. So we look over at the transit guide. We have Mars square Neptune again, Moon square Saturn, and then Moon trine Venus retrograde. So Moon square Saturn, 13 degrees, pretty exact, right around noon for my area. And then the Moon a little bit later would be trining. Did I write that wrong? Is that supposed to be Venus retrograde? Wait, hold on. Oh yeah, duh, right there. I was like, ugh. So then that would just be like a few hours later. So let's talk about it. I feel like for me on Tuesday, I was still really feeling the square between Mars and Neptune. But this day, I did sort of feel, I don't know, my Moon in Taurus transit, I always have a hard time sleeping because I'm so interested in things and just want to like learn about everything because it's my house of creativity. For example, I was up to like 4 a.m, like researching things about Wicca versus paganism versus witchcraft because I just like never really understood the distinction. And at 3 a.m, when the Moon square Saturn went exact, that's when I was like, okay, I should go to bed, which is interesting. And the other thing that I've realized is Mars in my 12th house squaring Neptune. On this day, I noticed that Mars rules my 4th house. My 4th house is Aries, and I have been constantly thinking about moving and really confused about where I should go, if I should go, and so on. So it's sort of just been a blur with my intuition, because usually I can kind of feel, oh yeah, I should go there, oh no, I shouldn't leave. But throughout that day, I started to feel just a little bit more relaxed. I could feel, I think it peaked on Tuesday, so at the beginning of the day, I literally had to like meditate right away because I was feeling very overwhelmed. Comment below if you too. So yeah, that was Tuesday. Tuesday's card that I pulled was the turquoise, the earth element, perseverance. Very beautiful. I believe that's my birthstone for December, so that's cool. And then as far as news, it was really mostly the same stuff as Monday, probably because there wasn't really any major Mercury transits on Tuesday, and Mercury usually has to do with the moon. But yeah, it was more just pervasive Mars square Neptune sorts of things about different. I think it was that evening, actually, now that I say that they said in Minneapolis and St. Paul that the mask mandate was coming back, or like something like that. Or like, no, for like indoor dining, you had to have a vaccine card. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's Wednesday. But yeah, as far as the Oracle card, sorry, I didn't even talk about that. Just told you it was my birthstone. It's all about overcoming obstacles with perseverance, right? So it really felt like that Mars square Neptune thing again. So, okay, you have an obstacle, you need to evolve, you need to expand, you need to grow, but how are you doing that? What's your plan? How are you being practical about that? Earth signs are all about practicality. And if you're not making a plan for how you're going to work hard and come over that obstacle, it's going to break. Your foundation is going to crack. You're going to fall into the mud. It's going to suck. Your new pants are going to be dirty. And it's just not going to be fun, okay? So Monday and Tuesday, I think we're really telling us, like, okay, it's great that, like, you've grown in this Sagittarian part of your chart, but you need to be realistic about how you're going to make a plan with that. You can't act out of fear. You need to act out of dreams. The best part of Neptune is it dares you to dream. Literally, Mars square Neptune is daring you to dream, so do it. Okay, Wednesday. So on Wednesday, we have the moon going into Gemini, conjoining the North Node, Moon square Jupiter, and Mercury square Uranus. For me, Wednesday felt way different than Monday and Tuesday. Although technically Mars is still squaring Neptune. I mean, Mars is moving on though. Mars isn't applying anymore. It's sort of like Mars like pushed Neptune around and was like, haha, and like now they're moving on, but like Neptune's still kind of nervous. So the energy's still there, but all that to say, I really felt like Wednesday was very much more like Mercury's day. I mean, it literally is Mercury's day, but Mercury was sort of like on the main stage this day. So on Wednesday, let's see what happened. Oh yeah, there was, in Minnesota at least, in Minneapolis and St. Paul, a news update on citywide vaccine requirements for indoor dining in the evening, which was probably, I mean, the chart right now is set for about 9 p.m. I think it was just like a little bit before that, so maybe the final degrees of Taurus, which is funny because dining and food, very Taurus things. But beyond that, the moon going into Gemini and then creating this square with Jupiter. Jupiter wants to be giving you opportunities, expanding ideas, and so on. He loves being in Pisces, and with this square to Jupiter, the moon in Gemini, people really want to be social. So people aren't taking this news very well, so to say. People are seeing this news and they're getting very frustrated by it. They're probably feeling like restricted by it. And then we also have, I mean, the Mercury square Uranus, people are totally taken off guard by it. Besides, cases going up a bunch, but whatever. Yeah, and I don't know, I sort of feel like, like Cam literally said that the moon was going to, or the news was definitely going to be wild this day, and I don't know, I just sort of felt like I needed to just like not this day. Like I needed to just very much recover from the Mars square Neptune, but then also just sort of take a step back and let it all sink in. Oh, and I also had an intense nightmare this day. Took a nap. And I don't really want to go into the details of my dream because it's for real, like, intense. But it was really interesting because it was full of, like, Mars and Neptune. I mean, Neptune rules dreams. And then there was violence in my dream. And there was also deception, very much so. And shadows and hidden things. And that was really crazy. Keeping a dream journal is really cool when you know about astrology transits because I'm starting to realize that you can just connect so many things to like the symbology of the different planets. So that was mostly what I had for that day. As far as oracle card, I pulled Pallas, which is related to Athena, the Greek goddess, but I mean it is an asteroid as well. And the keyword was trust, and the crystal was ammonite. It kind of looks like a pearl, pretty. But anyway, I think I wrote also an Instagram affirmation post this day about trusting the unknown and trusting the universe, because that was sort of what I really felt as well. Like with this whole, with Mercury being so close to Saturn, Saturn's my ruling planet, and Mercury squaring Uranus and Taurus, I think sometimes you really just have to let go, and you really just have to let things be revolutionized and not let your ego get in the way, right? Because sometimes I mean, you should know where you're going and you should dream big and all of the Mars Neptune things, but sometimes when you think too hard about where you're going, that's when you get lost, you know? Like, have you ever been on vacation and you have a whole plan about what you want to do and whatnot, or at least a loose plan, and then you get there and you realize, like this coffee shop is actually a lot closer to this other activity we're going to do. And then you say, hey, let's go to that one instead. You just kind of got to be flexible with it, you know? You kind of got to have like the Uranus mindset of, well, we're not going to do it that way, we're going to do it this way instead. And usually it's for the better too. That's the thing with Uranus is if you're scared to change, I guess change is always bad, but I mean, that really sucks for you. But Uranus is usually bringing about positive change. So, yeah. Okay. Let's move on to Thursday. So, January 13th, Thursday, we have the Moon trine Mercury and Saturn. Let me move the chart forward. And then we also have Mercury square Uranus again. So, this day, there was a ton going on in the news. There was, the Moon trine Mercury and Saturn on a collective, like the news was just very sort of inundating and overwhelming, and there was more discussion about the limits for indoor dining, and a lot of people saying like this doesn't really seem practical and whatnot. So I thought that was really interesting, only because like Mercury is in the shadow period, so I feel like we're gonna come back and look at a lot of these measures and be like, is this the best way to do it, or is there a more practical way to approach this situation that maybe in the long term will benefit people or businesses or, what have you. I got an email this day about extending my lease, which is really cool. Very Mercury. Like I said, these days were much more like Mercury ruled. I had a lot more communication with people these days. And I think I also, so the moon was in Gemini, and that's one of my cadent houses, which if you don't know what cadent houses are, it's the 3rd, 6th, 9th, and 12th, all the ones leading up to an angular house. And I was listening to a podcast, astrology podcast, and Chris Brennan said that planets, natally at least, in a cadent house usually are weaker and have less energy to really like show up in the native. And so I thought, does that mean when the moon transits in my birth chart in a cadent house, am I more low energy? And that was true for at least this one. We'll keep you updated in these weeklies how I feel next time the moon goes into like Sagittarius, for example, which is another one of my cadent houses. So felt low energy that day. I also had to open a coffee shop at 5 a.m, so that could have had something to do with it. And then my tarot pull for Thursday, or oracle, was culminating, the root chakra and hematite. So this card, when I read about it, was just a lot about connecting to your core and why you do what you do. It recommended to do tree pose as a yoga position and just think about your roots and where you came from and why you're here and so on. So, I don't know, I, on Thursday, started to feel a lot less of the Mars impulsivity to like go do, figure out where you're gonna live, and a lot more of the Mercury like logistics. Like I literally made like a chart of the different places I might live and pros and cons and whatnot. So the moon was on my, Mars was on my natal moon, and that's when I started to feel a lot more of my intuition of this is where I should go, which was really cool. It was in my 6th house, or not my 6th house. I mean, the transiting moon was in my 6th house, but opposite my natal moon. I don't know, that didn't really manifest, at least in my life. Might have been more just like my coworkers in general. But yeah, in the news this day, there was tons of discussions about empty shelves. There was also something about like a voting rights for next Tuesday, which is interesting because the node's ingress next Tuesday. And then something about a website where people can order free rapid tests, which like definitely is going to crash because Mercury retrograde. Like Does the government use astrologers? Does our government? Because I'm sure like India's government uses astrologers, and I don't know. JFK had an astrologer. I know that. Or Nixon. Maybe it was Nixon. I don't know. Maybe JFK did too. I wonder what his chart looks like when he got set. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, so I looked more at astrocartography this way, thought about where I wanted to move, using that intuition, blah, blah. Not really much else to say about Thursday. Just people looking at the news, being mad about the news, feeling restricted, and so on. So let's move on to Friday. Friday we had Mercury retrograde started, and then also Moon square Neptune conjunct Mars. So that's right here. For the time I have, it's not quite exact. Let's move it back just a little bit. So we got the Moon at 20 degrees, squaring Neptune, opposite Mars at 23 degrees. On Friday, I mean, one thing that I thought was interesting was it might be cool to look back when Mercury was trining Uranus and how that was sort of different. Because, I mean, at this point right now, see, Mercury is retrograde, and now it's exactly square Uranus, which did I even put that on there? I didn't, but I mean, that's still really relevant, because this is where we're going to start to see some of those mandates possibly roll back or just be adjusted or highly discussed in the news. So, I don't know, I sort of had an epiphany when Mars went over my moon. I always have epiphanies and ideas when there's transits to my moon, so when I talk about how to track your transits, it'd be really cool for you to comment and tell me if any of that resonates with you, if any of these things are transiting over your moon or in your Mercury and you've like had ideas and stuff. All that to say, Friday just felt very low energy for me. Was after the third day of all of this Mercury being the main character and Uranus spicing things up. I was really tired of looking at the news for doing this video, but it was fine. I don't even think I wrote anything. I don't even know if I checked the news this day. Oh, no, I already said that, yeah. Empty shelves and the voting thing, something about a filibuster. I don't know. I don't care about your political views. Please don't comment that. All right, and then we got Saturday. So Saturday, the moon went into Cancer, which I love when the moon is in Cancer. And then Saturn left shadow. So the moon in Cancer, so this is starting the full moon that is going to happen on Monday, the 17th. It's starting like the ingress of it. And I mean, the moon in Cancer is just always a great time to check in with your intuition, your feelings, your emotions. Check where Cancer is in your chart for what this might be illuminating, because this is a full moon. It's going to bring a release point. It's going to bring a manifestation of some kind. It's completing a cycle from July 9th of last year. So check back on your Snapchat memories or your Instagram or your messages or your journals and see what was going on in your life then. See if it's relevant now. Beyond the moon going into Cancer, it's also trining Jupiter, that thick blue line right here between Jupiter and Mars. And maybe this is when people start to feel a little more free. Maybe they like the mandates or whatever was not making them happy in the news when there was Mercury square Uranus. On this day, people could start to feel just a little more accepting of it, or maybe not even accepting, but just a little more. This is where people are like, yeah, this isn't gonna stay. Like, this isn't gonna happen how people want it to happen, and they're just not fretting about it quite as much, perhaps. So, I don't know. I like a moon trine Jupiter transit. I think depending on where Jupiter is in your chart, this is a great transit to start something, I'd say, especially with it being near full moon. Pisces is my third house of writing, and I wrote several poems this day and had a great journal and just lots of thoughts and ideas. So look to where these different signs are in your chart to think about what you were doing. And yeah, so, my tarot or oracle card. Words are so hard during Mercury retrograde. I pulled, crazy, the South Node. So we started the week with the North Node and ended with the South Node. And next week, they ingress. Beautiful. So this is labradite, and it's all about boundaries. So when I was interpreting that, I sort of felt like, same message as, it's interesting actually, because now we had, when I pulled the tarot card for the North Node, we had Mars stuff going on in Sagittarius, and then when I pulled this, it was the day that the moon was like at the last few degrees and then transitioned into Cancer. So it was in Gemini before, which is where the North Node was. So these are like opposite. So it's really asking us about our boundaries and where have we set boundaries? Where have we left comfort zones? Where are we growing? Where are we expanding? Where are we challenging ourselves? Look to Gemini in your chart to try to figure that out. And then as far as news for this day, more things about the filibuster. Like, bro, I don't know. I probably won't even talk about that anymore. Anything politically rated, because I just don't know. And then there was also, I thought this was so cool, I don't know, it was like a British researcher, that's all I know, but they found a sea dragon, like, skeleton. And Venus retrogrades in the news have, I feel like Cam White said this in his one video on Patreon about the Venus retrograde that he posted like in August, but maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. Like researching archaeology things and like finding like bones, because Capricorn rules bones, and that's where Venus is retrograding right now. So, and also like Capricorn is the sea goat, and it's a sea dragon that they found. So I thought that was really cool. And then on the Washington Post, I saw something about a bunch of like spam increases in email. And I mean, Mercury is still, like, if we look at her, where is she? Still making that square pretty exact to Uranus. So this week was very Mars heavy at the beginning and deceptive with Neptune. And then I feel like as soon as we went into Wednesday, it was all Mercury. It was all Mercury, just talking to Neptune, talking to Uranus, throwing things every freaking way and just never knowing what's going to happen. And I don't know, next week's going to be pretty crazy too, to be honest with you. But I'm really looking forward to the nodes ingressing into Taurus and Scorpio, because that is my 5th and 11th house axis, which is really fun, good fortune, good spirit. And yeah, I didn't talk about Saturn leaving shadow. Basically all that means is Saturn had retrograded over the summer, and now it's out of that shadow period that it had been in before, and it's treading new territory. So Saturn's in Aquarius, which is right here. And for me personally, I can feel it getting closer to my Jupiter and really having to check myself for limiting myself from opportunities only because of wanting to feel secure, like financially and resource-wise. But check where it falls in your chart to think about, and your planets too, to think about how this may be showing up in your life. So I did it! Okay, let me know what you think, how you relate, which day last week was crazy for you. I'd love to hear about if any of these manifestations of the planets or of the different oracle cards really resonated for you. And yeah, if you have any questions, if you don't know how to bring up your chart, you can absolutely just go to astro.com or go look at my other video about how to read your natal chart. So I hope to upload these every week, Sunday, sometime in the afternoon. And I'd love for you to comment, like, subscribe. All of that really helps me because I want to share my astrology knowledge with people. I want to help people understand that it's not that scary, and it's really cool to track your transits. Speaking of, really quick, let me show you the best way, in my opinion, to track your transits. So this app right here is called Time Nomad, and basically, can I click on these? No, okay. Well, this chart right here, you can put in your birth info, and then you can have your chart ready on your phone at any moment in this app. And then on top of that, I mean, there's lots of like complicated things like we don't really need to get into, but it'll give you, as it says, like transits. And then you can see where the planets are at this very moment. And then you can look at your chart and overlay them And then you can think about like what's going on for you. So literally, I constantly do this. Like, this app is one of my most used apps, and I will just put in, if somebody tells me like, oh, we're gonna go on a trip this day, I literally just bring my phone up, put it in the day, check it, look at the different planets. Is Mercury retrograde? Is there good aspects happening in their third or ninth house? Blah, 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 you know? So I feel like I've learned so much just from that app alone. So download Time Nomad. If you have any questions about it, it's only available on iPhone. So if you have an Android, contact your local Android programmer or just get an iPhone. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching. I did it!